grew up in the English countryside. She spent the first few years as a beauty therapist and then moved to Australia, where she realised she didn't have to be as beautiful as she was in the UK because, anyway, she's a keen traveller. She's been on a runaway horse around the pyramids in Giza. She's scuba dived in Kenya and the Great Barrier Reef. She's flown over Antarctica in a seaplane over the lakes in Canada, driven an open-top sports car through the desert to Vegas. We've all done that, haven't we?
Yeah.
Visited the pyramid with sun and moon in Mexico. She's flown in New York first class and got taken out in a glass-bottomed helicopter. I think there was 2 separate flights. She's been to the Caribbean several times and partied like a local. Was it Necker Island? Not quite. They didn't go there with Branson. She collects vintage French postcards from the Great War. In a movie of a Mayday situation on the plane she was in, an extreme power loss, no engine, presented with an award of excellence for her part in it. Was it a movie?
Yeah.
Yeah. Just thinking real, but it's a movie. Okay.
No, it's real.
Oh, it's real.
Sorry, yeah, it happens. It's reenactment.
Spent 6 months living in a combi van, travelling around Australia. Loves helping friends, community, feeling connected. She's one of our prized own here at PSA. Please welcome Louise Kelly.
This is my first time at Professional Speakers, speaking in front of you all, so it's obviously very nerve-wracking. And Graham, when I gave you that sheet, it was to choose a couple of things, not really.
I decided to choose them all.
I just thought it'd be amusing to see which ones he chose. I didn't expect him to read them all.
I'm an all or nothing sort of guy.
Thank you very much. It really is an honour to be here. So what I've chosen for a topic tonight is something that I think is quite pertinent to this time of year. So for me, this time of year, I always start thinking backwards on your past, where you've done, what you've achieved, because there's something that happens to most of us when it comes for the click over between one year and another. It's usually quite a quieter time of year for a lot of people too, so it's a time for some degree of reflection and looking forward to the next year. So the topic that I've chosen is thinking about where your energy goes and the things that you keep around you that stop that flow of energy. So I'm hoping that that's a topic that you might be interested in. So there is a saying that says, where your focus goes, your energy flows. So I'm going to share with you some of the things that have happened to me in the last few years that have led me to where I am now. And I would like to leave you with some thoughts of some things that you might want to try doing, particularly with the new year starting. Now I know that time is only a context, but it is significant to most people, the tracking of time and things like that. How many of you like boating? Going out and boat?
Yes.
Quite a few. Perth has a high ratio of boat owners. Now, those of you that are familiar with boating, you'll know the function of an anchor. An anchor helps a lot of things to do with the boat. Direction, keeping it in one place, it helps it keep it safe and secure. Now I want you to think about some of the things around you that keep you feeling safe and secure, the things that keep you where you are. I want you to think of some of the possessions that you own and some of the clutter that you keep as being a bit like anchors. They stop you from moving. Now in life, as we grow older, you may accumulate more than one anchor. There may be multiple anchors, and these are anchors that sort of slip up on you. You don't even realise they're there. You've forgotten they're there. It was such a long time ago, but they're still there keeping you tethered. And the other thing with anchors is sometimes they're not even your own anchors. They're other people's junk, but they're keeping you where you are. Recently, I moved back into a flat that I lived in my 20s, and I made connection again with a neighbour of mine that I hadn't seen for 10 years. And in those 10 years, she transformed, and I was quite horrified to see what I saw. She was disabled with a back injury, but she had become really quite bent over. She'd put on a lot of weight, she'd let her hair go grey, and it needed a cut. And she looked dishevelled, she'd lost some teeth, which was quite a shock too, because she was a nurse, you know, well kept and everything. And she was disorientated. And I asked her a few things. She told me that she hadn't been sleeping well. And when I asked her why, she said it's because she hadn't been able to get into her own bed for 2 years. Now, you know, the question's going to be, why haven't you gone to bed in 2 years? She told me it's because she couldn't get into it. She couldn't get into her bedroom. In the years that I hadn't seen her, she'd become a hoarder. And I'd never met a hoarder before. I didn't know what it was like. It's a horrible, horrible condition. When I went into her house, you couldn't even get in the doorway very easily. She kept cats, and there was boxes kind of ramping in the cats, and in the lounge room there was stuff on every surface, including everywhere over the carpet. So when I say stuff, I mean brochures that you get out of the post box, you know, the ones that you really get annoyed with, those ones, newspapers, books, VHS videos, knitting, bits of material, lots of cushions, just things everywhere. And she invited me to sit down, and I really didn't want to, you know, because it meant disrupting lots of things and stuff like that. In her kitchen, everything was piled high. It was neatly stacked and washed, but piled high, containers, hundreds and hundreds of plastic containers. The table was covered with a tablecloth like this, but it was multiple layers of things. She couldn't find her telephone. She was behind with her bills. She couldn't find them. She is getting help. She is having intervention. She is slowly decluttering. But what seeing her made me realise is I don't want to be that woman. I don't want to be living like that. That was quite clear to me. And the reason I'm telling you this story is because it's in stark contrast to most people's idea of what cluttering is. This is one extreme. I'm showing you that as an extreme. However, it made me also realise that I come from a family of sort of hoarders, hoarderish. Sort of. My parents grew up during the war, and my father had this, belief, very strong belief, not to throw anything away because you could use it again one day, might come in useful. And over the years that I was growing up, when various people died, Mum and Dad quite happily took on their furniture. So luckily, this is out in France, they had a really big barn, and they were able to fill this really big barn with everybody's bits of furniture. Nothing matched, it was all kind of all over the place, but Mum and Dad were quite happy. Until they got ill. Now, in his 80s, Dad was still chopping wood, because there was nothing fancy where they were and stuff like that. But unfortunately, he'd had cancer, he died, and it came out at the time that Mum needed help as well. She was in the early stages of dementia. So they hadn't been able to get rid of their stuff. So 2 years running, I went over to France to try and get rid of things and to find out anything that was important. And in the mud of this barn, and it was covered in owl poo, and there was rats, and there was spiders, and it was foul. In those bin liners were things like birth certificates, wedding certificates, family, Mum's wedding photos, all sorts of things like that. For the last few years leading up to Dad dying, I've been trying to get Mum and Dad to get rid of stuff, and I didn't realise Mum had a mental condition that made it hard for her, and Dad physically wasn't able to. So there's one thing I do want to just plant an idea. If you are a parent, please do not leave this kind of stuff for your children. That's really, they were beyond it. So I wanted to show you that because I've been brought up by my parents to do things like keep birthday cards, keep champagne corks, whatever nasty presents you get given, you still have to politely thank them and keep them on display. So that includes all the collections of salt and pepper pots I've been given over the years, all the picture frames that don't match, the 20 million candle holders, soaps, all of those things I've kept over the years. Letters, all sorts of stuff like that. And I didn't even realise that I was on the slippery slope. Because I'm a good bit younger than my parents, and I'm on that slope still. I had no idea. After one of my trips back to Europe, I realised that I was also living with a hoarder. And that was quite a shock, that realisation. When you see somebody in the clear light of day, And my partner at the time, he got diagnosed with a thing called obsessive compulsive personality disorder, and part of that is the need to hoard. Now his hoarding was different. There's different styles of hoarding. His was very neat and orderly, and he would spend days shopping for bricks or tiles or sand, and then days collecting it, and then days piling it, and then he would move the piles. The piles were very neat and tidy, and I found it overwhelming because I was getting inundated with other people's stuff on top of me, and I found it very difficult at that moment to cope with things. I put on a lot of weight, and I was very unhappy. I was very unhappy. I really couldn't think straight. I was feeling like the whole weight of the world was on my shoulders. I was dealing with my mum's medical stuff from another country. There was a time difference. I was really miserable at work because I was quite vulnerable at the time to being bullied. You know, when you're not at your strongest and stuff like that, a lot of people take advantage of you that way. And my partner was not supportive. So I was in a terrible state, and this is only a couple of years ago. And then I'm going to tell you one of the people that did make a difference in my life. You know how you meet guides and angels and things like that? Well, this woman came bursting into my life, Katy Perry. And it was this particular line out of her song Roar that it was like an arrow to the heart to me, the way it resonated. I guess that I forgot I had a choice. And here I was, approaching 50. You should be in total control of your life. And I wasn't. I had let everyone else control it. Graham will understand what I mean here. I'm a people pleaser. I'm an empath. And you do a lot of things without even thinking about yourself. And I kind of got swamped, caught up with it all. So the other person that I met at this time was a psychic. And I didn't go along to the psychic because I made the appointment. My friend went, and I kind of went with her. You know, one of those things. But this psychic, yeah, no, really. This psychic, she actually said things to me that my friends hadn't been able to say to me. And she was very blunt and honest. She had no involvement with me, and it was literally like holding up a mirror, looking at yourself. And she's describing my life as being buried in cement, being drowned, being absolutely stuck. Like in concrete, and she was saying you're dying from the inside out. She said, this is the psychic. You're a beautiful, confident girl. What's happening to you? You know, those kind of things. What are you doing? And then, I'm thinking, Katy Perry. In fact, Katy Perry has been my alarm clock for the last 3 years, and I love waking up to Roar. It does make a difference. So, sometimes you just need somebody to give you a bit of a shove, a bit of a boost and stuff like that. Anyway, so remembering I had a choice, I decided to leave and create a new life. And I obviously left behind an awful lot of clutter, a lot of history and a lot of past with what I left behind. And you start making a new life. I didn't realise though, I soon started cluttering my own new home up. My new space was lovely, it felt lighter, but soon it started feeling like there was a lot of stuff around. So the second angel, or guide I'm going to introduce you to, is Marie Kondo. Does anybody know Marie Kondo?
Yes.
All right. A beautiful, tiny, little, gentle Japanese lady in her early 30s, who has revolutionised a lot of people's lives with her method of decluttering and tidying. She wrote a best-selling book called The Magic Art of Tidying. Now, I read that, and you think that's a grippy title, The Magic Art of Tidying. I actually read it 3 times. I loved it. This woman has changed my life because I'm trying to explain about how my parents had instilled me not to throw things out, to keep them precious, sentimentality. Marie's given me permission to give things away. I needed permission. I can't believe I'm in my 50s and I needed permission to give things away. So the way that she does it is quite beautifully. You have to make a decision with all of your stuff in one lump about what brings you joy. So you do things sequentially. It's a purge technique. So you would do all of your clothes in one go. You would get them all together. You get them from all your little hidey holes, your suitcases, the shed, the loft, plastic bags under the bed, someone else's bedroom, wherever your clothes are scattered. You get them together, and you actually have to pick them. They're all off the hangers, just loose, and then you have to pick them up. And every time you pick them up, you actually think about, does this spark joy? And it's a funny thing to ask a piece of clothing, but it works, and that's it. I've never had a problem, and it's great. Does it spark joy? Does it make me feel energized from being near it? If it doesn't, you can put it in a different pile, and then you only put away the things that spark joy. So you go through your whole house. I went through my business cards. I hadn't really paid attention. All these business cards I collected over the years. I go out quite a bit, and I collected a few business cards, done nothing with them. So what use were they? So yeah, yours is probably there, Peter. So I finally got them outsourced, got them put onto a database. I also realised I didn't need over 100 pairs of knickers. I didn't need to keep all of the stockings with holes in, just in case one day I might need them. I didn't need 300 buttons because I never do sewing. In fact, I didn't need my sewing hamper that I brought all the way over from England 25 years ago with material and patterns in it, ready to make something one day. I've really enjoyed getting rid of things. I've still to do my shed, I've still to do my kitchen. Doing my toiletries was really hard because I collect little things, samples of things, and I had hundreds of samples of things. But I also don't like wasting things, so I am going through those little tubes of toothpaste one by one. I have been quite horrified, but I'm also quite delighted how many people have benefited from me giving away things. Whether it's books or clothes, somebody will take it in. So at this time of year, when everyone is all about getting more, I was in the shops today and it's all about more, more, more. I want to say to you, less, less, less. Get rid of things. Jeremy talked about stripping things back, and that's an important thing to think about. Getting rid of things, releasing things, so that you can sort of cut some of these anchors that tie you to where you are and think about 2017 in a different light. Get rid of the things you do not need. Get rid of the things and the people that don't bring you joy. And some of those people might have to be in your life. Keep them, but set boundaries. Boundaries for how much energy they can drain from you. Surround yourself with people that give you good energy. Surround yourself with things in your home that make you feel great and energized when you get home. Get rid of the stuff that no longer serves you. Now, Marie Kondo's method for doing that was to actually, when you think that this no longer sparks joy, is to actually thank it for its service. And that sounds like a bizarre thing to do, but it helps. It helped me get rid of things, to actually say thank you. It's good, it works. So for me, I'd just like to wrap up with saying that I would like to hopefully think, what can you get rid of? What no longer brings you joy? And what space and energy can you allow to flow into your room, your home in 2017? That's it.